Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, the story of Karen and Kevin who won a battle and lost the war. After that, what time do you get off? And after that, it's your wedding? I'll wear pajamas. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets a speeding ticket. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. The story of Karen and Kevin who won a battle and lost the war. This story is about 5 years old, and some of it, as you will read in the end, is still rolling. Probably will for a long time. It starts with Mrs. P as principal because that's what she is. Mrs. P started as a special needs kids caretaker, studied through the years of work, and graduated a doctorate in special education. After 20 years of experience in this, she was asked by the council of a medium-sized city to open and run a special needs school in the city. She accepted the offer, and after 4 years, she had a school with 150 kids in it. For special education school, that is a huge number. Such schools need way more people than regular schools, not just teachers, but also other caretakers, and the job isn't always clean and easy. So naturally, Mrs. P is always looking to hire. Then comes Karen. Karen just finished her college and got a degree in education consulting, top of her class. Her professor was on Mrs. P's school board, and she recommended her with very warm words. Karen was basically hired before she even sent her resume. Karen is married to Kevin, of course, who finished his law studies top 5 in his class, and now is doing an internship in a big law firm, awaiting his license to practice the law. Basically, their future is laid bright and clear. All they have to do is not mess up on the path to a nice, rich life. Mrs. P accepted Karen to work in the school and announced to her that she would start working on August 20th, about a week before the school year starts, as the staff needs to organize the school for the opening of the year. Karen protests that she is a consultant, not another lowlife that comes to mop the floor. Mrs. P is upset by her attitude, but Karen is top of her class and supposedly the best in the field, so she just smiles and says, "Staff starts to work on August 20th. You are staff too, so be here on that date." Karen isn't happy, but well, that's life. That pre-opening week, the staff will never forget. While teachers and nurses and other members all worked together hard to get the school up to shape, including painting the walls, setting equipment, and other chores you don't learn in college, Karen fixed her own room, sat in it all day, and played with her phone. Needless to say, she wasn't very popular among school staff. But time went on, school opened on time, and things started to get into their regular routine. Karen was causing more and more issues. She refused to fill in regular reports about her activities, was not available to meetings with staff and parents, and all in all, was a total entitled Karen. Mrs. P tried to talk to her again and again, to no avail. Eventually, Mrs. P asked the professor, the one who gave Karen her degree, the one who was on the school's board, to sit with Karen daily and coach her on how to actually work and function in a real school environment, as apparently she didn't learn that in college. But even that didn't help. Karen was hated by all of the school staff, and her work was done poorly and getting worse every week. Mrs. P had a meeting every week with Karen and the professor to discuss her performance and how to do better. Meanwhile, important reports and other documents were not filled, and the care to the students was getting worse every day. Until eventually, a parent filed a complaint about the poor treatment his kid got, and the board became aware of the issues. A meeting was set with the board, Mrs. P, and Karen. The professor promised Karen that if she will set orders to her paperwork and act respectfully, it would be all right. Karen knew she was on the hook now, but just couldn't stop being a Karen. So the day of the meeting comes, and Karen is a no-show, no call. She just didn't come that day, and the day after, and the week after. Without Karen, the board can only hear what Mrs. P has to say, but they already knew it, so the meeting is delayed to a time when Karen will show up. Needless to say, this doesn't help her case at all. Anyway, Mrs. P and the professor tried to get Karen on the phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Eventually, Mrs. P has no choice. Karen is a no-show, no call for over a week. She has to have a really good explanation to not get fired now. She calls Karen and leaves a message in her voicemail that she hadn't heard from her in over a week. She is very worried and please be in contact ASAP as finance wants to cut her pay. Finally, Karen called in. She has been sick the whole time. She will return to work in 2 days. Good. Mrs. P marked the date and set a meeting with the professor and Karen first thing in the morning. If Karen is sick and has a doctor's note, she will not be fired, but she will get some strong talk about the no-call issue. The day comes. Mrs. P and the professor sit in her office waiting for Karen to come. She didn't come. Mrs. P tries to call her and gets the voicemail again. She is furious. The professor is furious. Karen has set a new record in upsetting and wasting everyone's time. Karen shows up 2 hours late and Mrs. P calls her to a meeting immediately before anything else. She calls the professor to come. The professor canceled other plans she had to come in and the meeting finally starts 3 hours late. Thankfully, Karen had a doctor's note. She is okay on that, but she is going to get the strong talking to now. About 10 minutes into the meeting, Karen burst into tears. The meeting is stopped to cool things down, but not over yet. After a few minutes, everybody comes back into the room and Karen opens. "I'm still not okay. I still feel sick. I want to go home now." Mrs. P is silent and the professor comments, "As a board member, I must say, as long as you are sick, your job is safe. But it is your first year. You have not saved anything in sick days or vacation days. You will not be paid for this." Karen just said, "We will see about that," collected her things, and left. Karen is sick for another 2 weeks, and her position is vacant. Mrs. P does what she can to fill the void, as do others. But it's clear an employee is missing, and the position needs to be filled. Eventually, Mrs. P calls Karen again to ask how she is and when she will be back. And Karen says she can't handle the pressure and wants to quit. Mrs. P is stunned by this. Karen is only in her first year. Quitting in the middle will risk her future, and finding another consultant in the middle of the school year is almost impossible. But she keeps her thoughts to herself and just said she doesn't think it's necessary or wise. Just feel better and come back. But Karen doesn't come back. And after 2 more weeks of absence, her husband calls in to ask why no money has been paid. He gets the obvious answer. Karen has no right to paid sick leave. He gets angry and promises to check his options, which in lawyers' terms is, "I want to sue you." Now it's clear that the bridge was burned and Karen will not be back. Mrs. P started looking for a replacement, and the options aren't great. Eventually, she convinced a retired consultant to come back from retirement just to save this year. The replacement starts working but can't get paid. The position is still officially occupied by Karen, who is still on sick leave. Board members are now calling Karen, and it's clear she will not talk to Mrs. P. They ask her to come back, and when she refuses, they ask her to submit her resignation to allow them to keep the school running. Karen claims she is ready to come back only if she will be paid for all her sick leave, but nobody's willing to pay that. The mess is growing bigger and bigger. The parents start to hear rumors, and overall climate is not very good. Until finally Kevin, Karen's husband, calls in and says he wants to sue the school for the payment. He gets to talk to the city lawyers that explain to him that Karen cannot sue the school or the city while she is still sick or still registered as an employee. She has to stop one of those conditions. The day after, Karen is at school with a standard resignation letter stating her mental and health issues caused by the toxic environment as her reasons. Finally, after more than 2 months, the position is clear and filled right away. What was just rumors by now has become fact. Parents were aware that something went on. Finally, in a group chat of parents with Mrs. P, they ask her what this was all about. Mrs. P replies that Karen has resigned due to her mental illness. Kevin did try to sue the city. It went to mediation before court hearing. The mediator saw the material and strongly advised Kevin to withdraw. Kevin listened, and the whole thing was forgotten for a while. 3 months passes. School was doing okay when an email from Karen landed in Mrs. P's inbox. In short, dry, legal language, Karen informs Mrs. P that she knows she was slandering her in public. She has screenshots as evidence that she claimed she had mental issues, and that is all not true at all. Karen demands Mrs. P to apologize in public and clarify that Karen did not have any mental issues and her resignation was due to professional disputes. Mrs. P was shocked. She knew for a fact that Karen was, let's just say, not 100% okay up there, and she had her resignation letter to prove it. Going this way from Karen was beyond stupid. Mrs. P, however, did the right thing and sent a letter to the school board asking them what they think should be done. School board just hears the words legal actions and freaked out. They didn't want any of this. They demanded Mrs. P just apologize and let it all be gone. But Mrs. P was not willing to admit wrongdoing of anything as she knew she did everything right. The board kept his opinion, claimed Mrs. P as being pointlessly stubborn, and they will not cover any legal matters in that issue, which is against Mrs. P's contract. All legal liability that she has within her work should be covered by her employer. That meant her job was on the line now, and Mrs. P was determined to fight back and win. But without the city resources, fighting a slander lawsuit is expensive, and with her job at risk, it will not be easy. Mrs. P went again to the parents' forum, let them know that she had some personal legal issues, and asked if they knew who could help. One of the parents, a lawyer, agreed to help without pay. Note, it is highly unprofessional to ask parents to help in personal issues, but it wasn't really a personal issue, it was a school issue, and that parent lawyer noted that after he was informed the details. The lawyer agreed Karen and Kevin had no ground to sue, but said that if they sent the email, their intention is to sue anyway, and nothing Mrs. P would do will stop them. So it was better if Mrs. P just ignored it and let them dig their own grave. And digging they dug. A week after the first letter, a new letter arrived, by regular mail, in an envelope. It was printed on Kevin's law firm letter, stated that matters should be resolved by public apology or they will sue. Even the lawyer did not believe someone in a large, prestigious law firm is that dumb, but here's the letter to prove it. A trial will take time and will cost money, even if he is doing it for free. Not to mention that Mrs. P would be fired no matter the result. They had to find another solution. The lawyer figured out that stupid people need stupid solutions. He thought about it for a while, and then remembered he had a classmate in college who went working for that firm. He called that classmate and asked him how he is, now that they are both well after their college years. Apparently, his classmate worked hard and got to become a junior partner in the firm. When the lawyer mentioned the case, his friend was surprised. He hadn't heard about this case, and he should have, as lawyers in large firms gossip like old women. And a slander suit against special education school? It's the most raunchy gossip in town, but also a PR nightmare. He and the other partners would never take a case like this. It will make them look like greedy lawyers who would skin off anybody for a penny. Not good publicity. He promised to look around and check what is going on in the firm. It didn't take him long. The next day he called the lawyer back. He found out no lawyer in the firm was aware of this case. He figured Kevin used the firm paper to send the letter, but no lawyer above him was involved. Good news for our lawyer. Together, they planned the right answer to Kevin and Karen, the answer that will shut them out for good. The lawyer called Mrs. P and told her his plan. It was easy, simple, and malicious. She didn't like it, but agreed to it as it was the best and fastest way to resolve the situation. Next thing, the lawyer drafted his settlement agreement. He called Kevin and asked him if it will do. The agreement stated that Mrs. P will apologize to Karen in the most public way she can, and will post all the legally related papers alongside the apology in the school webpage. The agreement stated that the apology can come in any form, as long as it can be searched in Google search and has a link from the school webpage. It also stated that after the apology, Karen and Kevin will not be able to sue the school ever again, and will have no further demands from Mrs. P or the school ever again. The last clause stated that if any unrelated issues will come out of this agreement, Karen and Kevin will be liable for any consequences and the school can demand any losses it suffers from them. Kevin agreed to all the terms. Within 2 hours, Karen and Kevin signed the agreement and the next stage was ready to launch. The lawyer came to Mrs. P's office with the equipment he needed and the apology transcript. He set a video camera and Mrs. P read her apology. She opened with an introduction, who Mrs. P is, what she has done so far in her career, her degrees and recommendations. She also made an introduction to Karen, her career so far, her degree and recommendation. None so far. And after the introduction, she explained that Karen claims she left the school in the middle of the school year because of professional disagreement, and any other comment Mrs. P or any others have claimed about Karen's health and mental issues is false, and Mrs. P is sorry if Karen or anybody else heard and if Karen's feelings were hurt. In essence, anyone who sees the video understands exactly who Karen is, and even if Mrs. P didn't say it in words, it was clear she thought very bad things about Karen. Right after it was finished, the video was uploaded to the school's YouTube channel, and a sub-site under the school website was created showing the video and all the related documents, including the threatening letter Kevin sent in his firm paper. A link was sent to Kevin with a short line, "That settles the matter. Don't contact us ever again." Karen and Kevin had won the battle. A month passed, and Kevin suddenly got fired from his firm. Apparently, he wasn't in a position to send a letter threatening lawsuit under the firm paper without any higher-up lawyer watching him. Sending it like that for a case he managed himself was plain fraud. He was reported to the bar, but not to let a scandal and PR disaster come out. He was just let go, and no further punishment was taken. The firm sent a letter to the school admitting the fraud and asking the school to remove the threatening letter Kevin sent. The school graciously agreed, and Kevin's letter was removed, but the firm letter admitting Kevin's fraud was published instead. Kevin was done in the business. Any lawyer who he came to looking for a job asked him why he left the big firm before he got even past the first stage, and a simple search of his name showed he committed fraud against a special education school from all places. Nobody would hire him. Meanwhile, Karen kept looking for a job in her field. She had to wait until a new school year would begin. Her college professor was not willing to write her any recommendation, and she had to explain the missing year in her resume to any principal. A few school principals heard she worked with Mrs. P and called her to ask about Karen, which Mrs. P only said that due to legal issues, she can't talk about Karen, and it is all explained in the legal section of the school website. That was enough. Any principal who knows Karen sued her former school will not dare to hire her. Karen lost that school year, and to support herself, began looking for other jobs. She found the job as a secretary in an office that didn't Google her name, and worked there for a couple of months until the manager got bored one day and decided to search Karen's name. She was fired the next day for a minor mess-up. It's been more than 5 years since this happened. Kevin is a lawyer in a sleazy firm, hired mostly by low-life criminals. He loses most of his court cases and is known as the low-life lawyer for the low-life criminal. Karen is still looking for a job. She can't hold a job for more than 6 months before she gets fired for petty things. They both know very well why they're doing so poorly in life. Kevin sent another threatening letter demanding to remove all mentions of his name and Karen's name from the school's website. He also asked to remove the video. The lawyer just told him that it is what they agreed on, and if he wants to renegotiate, he will demand Kevin to pay for damages. He didn't specify what damages, and Kevin didn't ask. He gave up. Karen and Kevin admitted defeat. They lost the war. Mrs. P eventually removed the video from the school site and set it as private on YouTube, but all the legal letters are still posted there and will be there until, well, maybe forever. What time do you get off work? This happened a couple of weeks ago, but the party involved tried to come in today, and I had to tell them they were banned. So I decided to share my experience with y'all. It was the end of a 60-plus hour work week at the gas station / convenience store I work at. Customers have been more aggressive than they usually are, making my days longer and more strenuous than they usually are. The only saving grace is knowing I'm off the next day, and I have a six-pack waiting at home, but it wasn't that bad that day. Then the last hour of my shift rolls around. This kid hops out of the passenger seat of someone's car and walks in. I greet him like anybody else as he approaches the counter. Customer, let me get a pack of Newport Smooth 100s. I walk over to grab them as I was going to ask for an ID. I'm interrupted by him. Customer, actually, do you have a carton of them things out back? I check the drawers and I don't find any for the brand he was looking for. Me, no, sorry, just these two on the shelf. Customer, why not? Me, the governor recently passed a law banning the sale of all menthols starting at the end of the month, so we stopped ordering them. Customer, oh, all right. Give me the last two then. Me, sure. Can I just check your ID? Ah, hold on. He runs out back to the car. He's at the driver's seat window talking to someone. A woman emerges out of the car and walks in with him. I'm assuming she's his mom. Me. Hi, how are you? Customer's mom. Get me a pack of Newports. Before I could speak, she interrupts again. You got a carton? Me. No. Why not? So I explain why we don't have a carton of them things anymore, as I did previously to her son. She rolls her eyes. That's stupid. I nod in agreement because she's not wrong. Customer's mom. Whatever. Give me the last 3. Me. Unfortunately, I can't sell you these tonight. Why? Because you had your son come in and ask for these exactly same cigarettes, and when I asked for an ID, he went out and got you. I can't do the second-hand sales for these products. They're for me, though. Me. That might be the case, but because you sent him in here and he didn't show an ID, it looks like you're buying them for him. I already told you they were for me. I still can't sell you these, so I'm gonna decline the sale tonight. I'm sorry. So she stands there at the counter staring at me as more people come in and the line behind her grows. Me. Ma'am, I need you to step aside. I have other customers waiting to be rung up. She steps aside and her son starts chiming in as I'm ringing other people up. Son. So why can't you sell us them? I ignore him. Son. Hey, yo! I'm getting annoyed, so I respond. Me. Look, I already explained to both of you why I'm refusing the sale. If you're not going to get anything else in the store, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. I apologize to the customer I was ringing up, and before the next person can walk up, the son steps up to the counter. Son. Give me a scratch ticket. Me. Sure, did you find your ID? He scoffs. Forget you. Me. Okay, excuse me. I motion for the next customer to come up. As I'm in the middle of this next transaction, she has more to say. Customer's mom. Actually, you can't refuse a customer. If they want something, you legally have to give it to them. Me. I absolutely have the right to decline a customer for any or no reason. No, you don't. I've officially given up being professional at this point and just start talking as I normally do. Me. All right, you're still not getting those Newports though. Get me the manager. Me. Not here. When is he in? She's here in the morning. Also, managers aren't always men. You really don't know crap. You just started. All right. The mom grabs her son by the arm and starts pulling him away towards the door. Don't worry, baby. I know the owner. Actually, they both stop. We don't have an owner. We're a corporate store. They continue towards the door and are outside. The son pops his head back in. Yo, what time you get off work? Me. In an hour? Son. I bet. I'll see you and see how mouthy you are then. Me. Haha. Okay, buddy. Customer. Jerk. Me. Yup. The store's finally empty and it's been for a few minutes, so I step out for a cigarette. When I come back out, they're parked in the fire lane staring at me. I just wave and continue smoking until another customer comes in. I love my job. It's your wedding? I'll wear pajamas. My biological mom left when I was 3, and I was raised by my dad and my crazy ex-stepmother. I was sheltered from my biological mom's crazy until I was an adult. It took me growing past a teenager to realize she was stuck in that teenage mentality. She's very attention-seeking and leans hard into melodramatics. Her fondness for drinking also exacerbates her melancholy, and I've had many a late-night phone calls from her about how she's so lonely. She never should have left my father. This is all my crazy ex-stepmom's fault, blah blah blah. She's also permanently broke and always looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, and then is surprised when she gets ripped off. Anyway, I moved from Australia to England for love, and also because I was a tiny bit obsessed with Oscar Wilde. We very happily told my family when we were engaged, and because of the requirement to travel, we chose a date quickly, 18 months in the future. Those that have planned a wedding know there is lots involved and it can be stressful. Biological mom was a nightmare, trying to butt her nose in about my dress. Apparently it was wrong that I took my mother-in-law-to-be instead of her, even though she lives in a different country. Location: we chose Scotland because it's our happy place, but she wanted it to be down south, London way, so she can do tourist stuff, and so on. Anyway, knowing that she's broke, I limited costs where possible. She needed to only pay for her flight over and her rooms on the wedding weekend. We started to talk about what she was going to wear. Something about my mom. She has a back tattoo. It covers her entire back and was done by some bikers in a garage and is pretty bad. She sends me pictures of slinky, backless ball gowns. Genuinely, these dresses she's sending are awful. I don't really mind what people wear usually, but I did want to be able to look at my wedding photos and not cringe, so I offered a solution. As she misses out on wedding dress shopping, I offered to take her out when she arrived and buy the dress for her. Now, I had quite the army coming out for our wedding, and my sister, who was my maid of honor, came out 3 weeks early to help. I also had a woman coming from Oz who was close to my heart and one of my mom's friends. I thought the 4 of us could all go dress shopping together. Boy, this was a mistake. My mom pettily sniped that my sister and I were paying too much attention to her friend. We weren't, and started pouting about having to try on dresses. She was acting like a kid, and my patience ran thin, but the goddess that is my sister smoothed the ruffled feathers and finally got my mom in some dresses. Let's just say, anything I had chosen was wrong and awful, and my mom could not understand that she was 20 kilos heavier than she thinks she is, so certain styles just did not suit her. Finally, a dress was found. I go to pay. She walks off with the bag. That's it. No thank you, no acknowledgement, and this was not a cheap dress. Just took the bag and complained that she was hungry and that her friend had been able to have lunch and she hadn't. Day of the wedding arrives. It was great. Husband and I looked amazing. We were surrounded by people we love and that loved us, and we were happy. They were having a boogie on the dance floor, and I turn around to see my mom in her pajamas. Apparently, her dress was too uncomfortable, so she went to the rooms to change into her pajamas. Not something nice, but still comfortable. Pajamas. The biggest annoyance, they didn't even match. Karen gets escorted out of my water park. So I was a lifeguard at the Waterpark section of my state's big amusement park. I was just about to turn 17 and school was out for the summer, so my mom finally allowed me to get a job. I applied at the amusement park as a lifeguard because I am very much the kind of person that loves water. I go through training. I learn CPR and Heimlich maneuver. That way I can work as a certified employee. First day the water park portion is open, it's packed to max capacity. Wave pool is completely full. Lines are backed up for slides, and queue lines at the food shacks are winding into spirals. It's a mess. So since it was my first actual day with people, not just other lifeguards for training, I was put at the bottom of the slide. I had expressed that morning that I have extreme anxiety, and that day was one of the worst days, so I was allowed to stay at the bottom of the slide and other lifeguards would skip over me during rotation. The slide I was working on had 2 staircases, one for single riders and one for double rides. Single riders have a single rider float and double riders had space for 2. When the park gets busy, we would open up both staircases and sort them so that single riders would go up one staircase and double riders would go up another. In comes Karen. I'm going through the line, making sure that people are in the correct line because there's a double rider line and a single rider line. When I see Karen with her 2 kids, me, Miss, are you a single rider? Karen, no, I'm not riding. I'm just going to walk these 2 up the stairs to keep them safe. Me, oh, okay, no problem. I go back to asking people in the line to make sure they're in the right line. When it gets to be Karen's turn, she asks me for a float. At this point, I'm confused. Karen, yeah, I'm gonna go up there with them, but I wanted to ride down too. Me, then you're in the wrong line. You need to be in the single rider line. You're the manager here, right? Just give me the float. It's worth mentioning again that no, I am not the manager. This is literally my first day working here with actual people. Me, no, I'm not the manager. Well, obviously you are. You've been at this slide all day. I didn't bother trying to explain to her that I wasn't the manager, but instead tried to reason with her. Me, ma'am, you cannot just skip the entire single rider line. That would make the other riders unhappy. After this, she went off on some tangent, literally called me names. Mind you, this is a grown woman yelling at a kid. I was 16 at the time, but I definitely looked considerably younger. Another lifeguard in rotation saw that I was being yelled at and went to get the actual manager, who came to see me in tears, still being yelled at by this mother who thought she was entitled to a float. Security ended up escorting the woman out, and I was sent to the break room for a double break. My manager was a super nice lady and knew the anxiety struggle. Karen, be gone. And shoutouts to our re-generals of the day, Tina, Damien, and Cyrus. And if you'd like me to record a special message for you or your loved ones, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned below in the comments.